Welcome back, YouTubers. This is What's the Science Behind That, and this is part 2 for our video of the Flat Earth versus Round Earth debate. And we're coming down at number 6, which is other planets. Okay. So the Earth is different from other planets. That much is true. After all, we haven't found any other planets with life yet. Not yet, anyways. However, there are certain characteristics all planets do have in common with, and it will be quite logical to assume that if all planets behave a certain way or show certain characteristics, specifically if those planets are in different places or were created under different circumstances, our planet is still the same. So, in other words, if so many planets that were created in different locations and under different circumstances show the same property, it's likely that our own planet has the same properties as well. All of our observations show planets are spherical, meaning round, not flat, round. And since we know how they're created, apparently, it's obvious why they are taking on this spheroid shape. Unless we have a very good reason to think otherwise, which I don't think, our planet is very likely the same as any other planet. Okay, so in 1610, Galileo observed the moons of Jupiter rotating around it. He described them as small planets orbiting a larger planet. A description and observation that was very difficult for the church to accept, as it challenged the geocentric model where everything was supposed to revolve around the Earth. This observation also showed that the planets known as Jupiter, Neptune, and Venus were all shown to be spherical, as in circle. And by the way, they all orbit the sun and not the Earth. Just saying. If the Earth was flat, or any other planet for that matter, the moon, the sun, comets, meteorites, Jupiter, anything else, this would be such an incredible observation that would pretty much go against everything that we know about planets, about how planet forms and how they behave. It would not only change everything we know about planet formation, but it would also affect star formation, as our sun would have to behave quite differently to accommodate the flat Earth. What we know of speed and movement in space, like planets' orbits, effects of gravity, etc., etc. And so in short, we don't just suspect that our planet Earth, is spherical. We know it is spherical, meaning round. Okay, at number 7, we had the existence of time zones. This one was actually pretty interesting, and I actually made an observation myself on this one. The time in New York, let's say, is 12 p.m. The sun in the middle of the sun is in the middle of the sky. Okay, so in Beijing, let's say it's 12 a.m., which is midnight, and the sun is nowhere to be found. In Australia, let's say it's 1:30 a.m., more than 13 hours ahead, that is. There, the sun is long gone. This can only be explained if the world is round and rotating on its axis. At a certain point, when the sun is shining on one part of the Earth, the opposite side is dark, and vice versa. This allows for different time zones and different times, specifically ones that are larger than 12 hours. Another point concerning time zones is that the sun and the Earth, well, if the sun was a spotlight, for example, very directionally located so that light only shines on a specific location, and if the world was somehow flat, we would have seen the sun even if it didn't shine on top of us. The The same way you can see a light coming out of a spotlight on the stage in a theater, for example, even though you, the crowd, are in the dark. The only way to create two distinctly separate time zones where there is complete darkness in one while the other is light, in the other is dark, as if the world is round. Okay, this is an observation I made myself. It's called the sunrise and the sunsets picture. Okay, so if the Earth was flat, the sun's path would be straight, not curved. So basically, this is what the sun's path would look like. Straight line. But it's not. Since the Earth is round, the sun has a curved path. Okay? Well, technically the sun's not moving, it's just the Earth that's moving, making it appear the sun is moving, but, you know. The path the sun makes through the sky is actually a big circle. The important thing to know is that the path is curved, not straight. Just another reason why the Earth is round and not flat. Fun fact, going back to the whole gravity piece, a sphere Earth equals gravity pulls downward. Gravity on a flat Earth would pull sidewards, or sideway, or there wouldn't be gravity at all. Now, last time I checked, apples fall downwards, not sideways. Just saying. Here at number 8, this is something I came across in the research. It's called different angles. This is another question I came across. And someone asked, if the Earth is round, then why aren't we standing at odd angles around it? Good question. The answer to that is, and the fact is, we are all standing at odd angles around the Earth. It just doesn't feel like it because of the force called gravity. Gravity was first discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. He said that every object pulls on every other object. So you are pulling on the Earth just as hard as gravity is pulling on you. However, since you weigh much less than the Earth, you do not affect its motion at all. However, again, the Earth has a big pull on you. The pull is what keeps us all from flying off into space. So every object pulls towards its center. Again, that's downward. Imagine a picture of the Earth that's, a sphere, and there's a bunch of people standing around the Earth, and there's arrows pointing towards the center of the Earth. Okay, just imagine that picture. If you look at the arrows in the picture that you're imagining, you will see that they all point to the center of the Earth. This is the direction of gravity. Now, when you look at the children that you're imagining standing around the Earth, you will see that when they are standing on the surface of the Earth, the force of gravity points away from their feet. Like I said, they point into the ground, the center of the Earth. Each children, no matter where they are standing, you can look down and it will be towards the center of the Earth. So, if you go visit someone on the opposite side of the world, the gravitational force on you will be in the opposite direction of that which your parents who are still at home. So we are all really standing at odd angles, pretty much. Okay. Here at number 9, this was probably one of the most interesting ones. I really just had to throw this one in here. And you'd guessed it. And you'd pretty much know I'd find a way to include this into the video. The Bible. That's number 9, the Bible. Maybe I'll leave a link in the box below. Well, that's right. The Bible actually says the Earth is round, not flat, round. Short answer, while the Bible makes occasional poetic references which suggest a flat Earth, These instances are clearly written at a poetic or observational point of view. However, the Bible does quite clearly show a spherical earth. Let's start with Genesis 1:9. Then God said, "Let the waters below the heavens gather the earth into one place, and let dry land appear," and it was so. This statement fits perfectly with what modern science knows about the world. Most people are familiar with a supercontinent called Pangaea. I don't know about you, but it sure looks like all the water gathered in one place, with dry land appearing together. Yet, astonishing, the earth is still round. It doesn't matter which way you slice it. The Bible is pretty accurate on this one. We have Job 37:3 and 38:12-13. These two verses use a very poetic advice to describe the earth. Like skeptics, they try to trick people into thinking that this suggests the earth is flat, when it clearly does not. They assert the Bible is making a scientific claim, when it's clearly making a poetic expression. Now, expressions aren't facts. Anyone who tries to take a look at these verses literally, after reading other poetic expressions, is a complete and utter fool. The book of Job continues with poetic expressions such as, "The thunder of God's voice on the face of the habitable world. Spread out the skies as hard as a cast metal mirror. His voice roars. Out of the north comes a golden splendor." If anyone who even reads a few sentences, it becomes quite clear that Job is heavily using metaphors, expressions, and yes, even exaggerations. We have Ecclesiastes 1:5. "The sun rises and the sun sets, and hurries back to where it rises." This statement is just an observation, not a fact. Well, actually, it is a fact that the sun does rise and set, but just like in the book of Job, it doesn't prove the earth is flat. We have 1 Samuel 2:8. "He raises the poor from the dust. He lifts the needy from the ash heap, to make them sit with nobles, and inherit a seat of honor. 4 pillars of the earth are the Lord's, and he set the world on them." Again, a poetic statement. And that isn't meant to be taken literally. I will go over the 4 pillars in just a second. Daniel 4:10-11. Skeptics often use this as proof of a flat earth. But once again, what do we see here? Skeptics tricking people into believing this means the earth is literally flat. But what is it really? A dream. Daniel is describing a dream, not an actual thing. What happened in the book of Daniel is a symbolic dream, not proof that the earth is flat. The Bible even tells you the meaning of the dream. The actual tree represents the king. His power was over all of the kingdoms, not a flat earth. Joshua 10:13. So what about this one? The flat earth? Nope. Again, we see Joshua asking for the sun to stop. That doesn't mean the sun literally did stop. Educated doctors, in fact, still use this statement, like the one in Joshua 10:13. A quote by a cancer doctor that I read in a magazine just a couple of weeks ago. It read this, quoting, "Dermatologists recommended staying out of the sun when it is the highest in the sky to avoid skin cancer risks." End quote. So do these educated doctors really think the earth is flat too? No, it's only an expression. Of course, I'm referring to the one that I bunny-eared, meaning the highest in the sky. They are accurately telling us an observational truth. This is exactly what is going on in Joshua 10:13, that is what he's conveying in observation. It's not meant to be taken literally, okay? So these verses are just a poetic expression. They don't prove a flat earth. Okay, so let's get back to the four corners of the earth. This is what happens before the angels went to the four corners of the earth. 1. Major deaths of 1/4 of all humans and animals. 2. Tectonic plate movement, asteroid, meteor strike Earths, natural disasters. 3. These things would alter the landscape, size, shape, and continent. So right off the back, we know the Earth didn't look the same back then as it does today. The continents could be in a different relative position. So the four corners actually means ground, land, world, country, region, etc., etc. This doesn't necessarily mean the entire Earth. Now, who doesn't realize at this point that the angels could absolutely be standing at 4/4 of a landmass? Sound familiar yet? That's because the description of the four corners is actually talking about Pangea, not a flat earth. So the conclusion of the biblical flat earth is, well, it's quite clear that anyone who takes the time to examine these alleged flat earth verses will quite clearly see that they are either poetic, describing an observation, or a perspective, or some other logical explanation. They don't actually prove a flat earth. Does the Bible say the earth is round? Kind of. Isaiah, like I mentioned earlier, chapter 40, verse 21 through 22. Clearly, this statement clearly calls the earth a circle. This is an interesting one for a couple of reasons. 1. First of all, he says, quoting, God sits above the circle of the earth. He is clearly calling it round, not flat, round. Hint, hint. A circle doesn't have corners. So why would a man well-versed in the scripture of God call the earth a circle if he believed it was a flat-cornered piece of land? Obviously, he believed the earth was circular in nature. Okay, Job 26:7 says the earth is hung on nothing. Even though Job is accused of suggesting a flat earth, it is rather shocking that he makes this statement. Proverbs 8:27 describes a circular earth. Again, we see a reference to the earth being circular in nature. Not only does it contradict the four corners claim about the flat earth, which is obviously symbolic, but it also proves the consistent thinking of a spherical earth. Luke 17:31 through 34. Jesus talks of both night and day within the same period. This is due to the earth's spherical shape and rotation, as mentioned earlier. So the conclusion on the biblical round earth, the Bible never says the earth is flat. It makes many references to it being round. Since I've already shown in my other videos why the Bible is 100% scientifically accurate, this is just another reason why the earth is round and not flat. Well, that pretty much ends video number 2 for this project. I do have some extra information here in my book, but it might be a long time before I get to the part 3 on this, just because I'm still editing on the last pieces of information. But yeah, more than likely, there might be a part 3 to this, so just keep your eyes peeled in case I publish a part 3 to this. That pretty much ends this video for number 2. I hope you've learned something interesting in this video here, specifically. And I'll catch you then. And until then, I'll see you then. Ciao, YouTube.